Smash Ultimate Season 2. Hey, how's it going everyone? You wanna talk about some Smash Brothers? Cause that's what I wanna do today. As you already know, this is my video on Smash Ultimate's second Fighters Pass. However, this video is not going to be my own personal wants or my own personal predictions. I honestly haven't been as engrossed in the larger Smash community as I typically like to be, so my opinions are probably a little outdated if not just unrefined at the moment. But also, I don't know, I'm sure you all have already watched tons of videos of people throwing out their predictions for Fighters Pass Volume 2. I'm sure that my roster would look super samey to all the other rosters you've already seen, and that just sounds boring to me, so I'm gonna do something else. So what I have here is a template for what's going to become my Smash Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2 community roster, meaning that this roster is going to consist of the 6 characters that I see most often predicted for Season 2. I'll lay out who the 6 characters are, I'll say whether I agree or disagree that I think they're likely, and I'll throw in my own personal thoughts on the character. And just quick story before we actually jump into this. This is my 4th or 5th time attempting to do a video like this, I think. The first 3 or 4 drafts I did, I actually went to Twitter and forums, and I looked at individual prediction rosters and I talked about each of them, compared and contrast. And then at the end of the video, after looking at dozens and dozens of rosters, then I put the community roster together. But not only was that video just really long every time I recorded it, but it really didn't make me feel comfortable, specifically calling out individual people's rosters and commenting on them. For one, it just felt like I was hijacking other people's thoughts and content, and it also just felt really mean-spirited whenever I came across a roster that I didn't agree with and really went in on my opinion on why I think it was a flawed roster. But luckily, after trying to do that video 3 or 4 times, I have seen well over 100 prediction rosters at this point, it must be, and feel pretty confident in who the 6 characters I saw the most were. Well, actually, I'm kind of not super confident on all of them, but we'll get into it. So the first 2 characters I'm going to throw up here are the 2 that I definitively, easily saw the most often. The 2 that I am for sure most comfortable throwing up on this list. And the first one is Travis Touchdown. I cannot believe we have finally reached a point where Travis is a very likely candidate for Smash. That makes me so happy. And I do genuinely agree with it. The stars feel like they're kind of aligning for him the same way they might have for Byleth. He just had a successful comeback, he's getting another even bigger game later this year. No More Heroes 3 is getting a lot more buzz than I thought it was going to. And I think the amount of people talking about this character getting into Smash, the amount of people that want to see this character in Smash, is a testament to the appeal this character has for being in Smash relative to how little his franchise has sold in the past. He's relevant, he's popular, he's got Nintendo ties, Sakurai is friends with his creator has talked about Travis getting into Smash. It's far from a guarantee when Travis is still a relatively small character, but it's really easy to see how people will notice all these clues lining up and come to the conclusion that Travis has a great shot of getting into Smash. Probably the least contentious character I'm going to talk about today, if I had to guess. For example, I think there would be some debate around my number 2, but I cannot deny that Dante was popping up all over the place. Now, unlike Travis, Dante does have some competition from his company, Capcom. There is a good amount of people that say Phoenix Wright will be the next one to get in, and that might be the character that I would personally predict. And you'll also see people throw around a Monster Hunter here and there, but it is no question that the public opinion, as of today, is that Dante is going to be Capcom's next character. I do have to wonder, I'm sure you guys know, there was a lot of coincidental things happening recently that led people to believe that Dante is likely gonna get into Smash. A lot of people even were expecting him to be Fighter Pass number 5, even though if you looked at the evidence we were being presented, it was actually alluding to him definitely not being Fighter Pass 5 and being included later on down the line. But even still, I have to wonder if all these coincidental things, if Dante being a really talked about character this last month, if that wasn't happening, would he be so far ahead of all the other characters I was seeing? As long as I'm stuck in my current timeline, I will not be able to answer that question. But regardless of any of that, I personally like Dante. I've loved him in MVC for years, I just started playing the Devil May Cry series. Cannot wait for the 3rd one to be released on Switch, I hear great things about that game. And I really like Dante as a character, so I'd be cool with it. I have to have hope that Sakurai and the balancing team have learned their lesson, they know how to implement action game characters now. It might be blind faith, but I do have faith that Dante is not going to absolutely obliterate this game if he releases. So the next 2 I want to talk about are 2 companies that I saw popping up on almost every single roster I looked at. At least 70% of the rosters I looked at had these 2 companies represented, and that's Bandai Namco and Square Enix. But unlike Capcom, the frontrunner in these 2 companies was not super immediately clear to me, although I do think I have an answer for both of them. Let's start off with Namco, because I think that is the more definitive of the 2. As you probably already know, there is a close race between Heihachi and Lloyd Irving for who the next Namco character is going to be. And you'll also see some Dark Souls thrown around here and there. Unlike Travis and the Capcom characters, these are all characters that I do not have a lot of personal attachment to, but if I was going to pick one that I was going to guess would be in, I would guess Heihachi. Heihachi is more well-known and more relevant today, and Sakurai clearly has an interest in the character. Of course, there's his Smash 4 Mii costume, but there's also a pretty famous Sakurai quote talking about how Heihachi might be difficult implementing into Smash because of implementing Tekken's movement. Now, some people might take that as more of a deconfirmation than a confirmation, but in my mind, that just tells me that Sakurai is thinking about the character and has an interest in implementing him into Smash. And Sakurai definitely feels like the kind of person to try and overcome the obstacles of including a character, rather than abandoning the character and choosing someone else. However, I cannot deny, I am pretty sure that Lloyd is the character that I saw people predicting more. If I had to guess, I'd say it was probably about 65-35 in Lloyd's favor. And if we want to briefly touch on some stuff supporting Lloyd, of course he also has a Smash 4 Mii costume, and he's more tied to Nintendo than Heihachi is. Personally, I can do without Lloyd. I don't really think he is quite a big enough deal to be a giant hype Smash inclusion, but I think he's inoffensive enough, he could be interesting. But unfortunately, for the possibility of Smash discourse ever becoming more civil in the future, not only is Lloyd another JRPG anime swordsman, but if you haven't noticed, the first half of this community roster I'm putting together are swordsmen. I don't think that specifically negates the chances of any of the characters we've talked about so far, but I think it does go to show, if you're one of the people that's upset with this archetype constantly being reused in Smash Bros., there's a chance that Fighters Pass 2 isn't gonna completely satisfy you in mixing things up. But kicking off the back half, we're on to Square, and this was easily the toughest company to try and determine a popular pick for. There are just so many great legendary Square picks to choose from. Chrono, Geno, 2B, Sora, all of these characters were on multiple prediction rosters I saw, and they are all fantastic picks. Of these 5, 2B is absolutely my personal favorite, and probably the third most common choice I saw if I had to rank them. But despite how close of a race this was, looking at this list I have here, I think you already know where I'm going with this. I do think Geno was the most common Square character that I saw predicted for Season 2. Definitely a close race between him and Sora, but even if I didn't think Geno got more votes in the end, the unbeatable legacy this character has in the Smash speculation world would probably be what I would have used as the tiebreaker. Despite being one of the most consistently requested characters since pre-Brawl, Geno still hasn't happened yet. So after all these years of Geno consistently not happening, it is getting a little difficult for me to say, oh yeah, now's totally the time they're gonna add Geno. But despite that, I might be in agreement. If I had to pick a Square character, Geno does stand out to me. Of course, there's that Mii costume that hasn't returned yet. It is a character that Sakurai has talked about in the past. And Geno certainly has some of the most fan demand of any character. He's up there with Waluigi. Those are probably the top two. He doesn't really feel like a Square character, so it is a bummer that because of this we're missing out on so many legendary protagonists from Square Enix, on this particular roster at least. But come on, who in the Smash world could possibly be mad at Geno getting into Smash? After all the build-up and hype around this character, to still see people consistently requesting him and predicting him, that's special. That's something that I love to see every Smash speculation season. So with Geno taking his spot, we're on to number 5, and this is going to be a pretty short, boring segment, I believe. Number 5 is a Sword and Shield Pokemon. And as you might already know, I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan in the world. I haven't played Sword and Shield, so I do not have a personal opinion on this matter. I'm just gonna go off the ones that I saw the most often, and the two that seem to be competing for number 1 were pretty easily Rillaboom and Urshifu, with a distant third place going to this dude named Toxtricity, I think it's pronounced. And not only was he definitely not the most popular Pokemon chosen, but just I get chewed up for saying this a lot, but I definitely do not like the direction that modern Pokemon designs have gone. However, Rillaboom and Urshifu. I know nothing about these characters. I just know that I think the one I saw most common was Rillaboom. By my understanding, it's really a conversation of whether you think it's going to be a Pokemon from the base game or from the DLC. There's solid arguments for both, and I don't have the nuance to add my own personal opinion, but based on what little I know, I think Rillaboom is a perfectly justifiable character. This is also the only first-party character that ended up making it onto this community roster I have here. The other really popular choices I saw were another Xenoblade character, a character from Breath of the Wild 2, or Waluigi, but I think a Sword and Shield Pokemon was the only first-party character that could keep pace with these other 5 third-party characters I'm talking about. Which brings us to the final character on this roster. So, for me, personally, who I consider to be the big boys of Smash speculation, the larger-than-life gaming icons that people talk about getting into this game, are Geno, Master Chief, Crash, Steve, and Sora. We already have Geno on this roster, although Sora did pull in a fair amount of votes as well. Master Chief and Steve were both popping up consistently too, but of these 5, easily the one I saw the most was Crash. And I really don't have much to add to this conversation. It sure makes sense. It's probably the most vanilla and bland character you can choose for Smash. Of course, a cartoony platforming mascot makes tons of sense for Smash, especially one with the legacy of Crash. He's from an all-new company, he's got the Nintendo ties, he's got the fan demand. Crash was easily one of the most predicted characters I saw, probably up there with Travis and Dante, honestly. I don't know why I decided to save Crash for the end. But that's it, those are the 6 characters that I believe are the most predicted to be in Fighters Pass Volume 2. Looking at this roster as a whole, I think it's actually balanced out fairly well. I would probably guess there's going to be 4 third-party and 2 first-party, so I would throw 1 more first-party on there. And as I said, I don't personally agree with every character on this roster, but they are all justifiable to me and I see where people are coming from. And I think it's balanced out pretty well too. You have 2 giant juggernaut fan-favorite choices, then you got your nicher picks, you've got some new companies in there, you got another Nintendo advertisement in there. I think this roster is balanced out pretty well, maybe even more balanced than I thought Fighters Pass 1 turned out to be. But this was a really fun experiment for me to do. I'm definitely glad I did this instead of just vomiting out my own opinion. I'm very excited to revisit this roster and see how close the Smash community got it. This is not the most mathematically accurate list at all. I didn't create some algorithm to pump this out for me. But despite that, I think we ended up with a pretty good community roster here. Of course, any of your own thoughts you have about this roster, maybe there's a big character that you think's getting talked about a lot that I missed, send your thoughts over to me or just send me your own predictions for Season 2. And yeah, bye!